Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we get the chance to work on a very nice reel. It's in the Penn GTi series. This is the GTi 330. It's a later edition of the last of the GT series that was made in the USA. The GT2s and some of the last parts of the GT1s were made in China. They were transferred over in 2005. So this reel is about 20 years old, and it doesn't work. So we're going to take a look. We know that there's an issue here with the eccentric. It's perhaps the cause of why it's not working. But we'll show you how to take this reel apart completely, how to service it, how to keep it going, and fishing for another 20 years. It's got that dependability and reliability that Penn reels are known for. And well, this one can just keep on fishing if you keep it maintained. We're going to start by removing the exterior pieces. That starts with the handle. To get the handle off, you need to remove the set screw that is holding in the handle screw. And then we can take the handle off and then the side plate. All right. If you don't know the reel that you're working on, I want to encourage you from the beginning to take pictures. Those pictures will be invaluable when it comes time to reinstall the reel. I'm going to use a handle screw wrench to break this hold of that screw, and then you can pretty much take it off by hand. This reel's been kept clean, but there is evidence that it has gone fishing in a saltwater environment. And well, so much of the service is about cleaning, inspecting the pieces and parts, fixing anything that may be broken. There's something broken in this reel, and I'll just relubricating it and sending it out to work again. There's evidence of some salt back here, so I would say that the reel gets washed off, but salt does accumulate at the base of that handle there, dries out, and well, just put some penetrating oil in there. It will loosen it up. And when I take my pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray. That's my way of managing all the pieces that have come off. I recommend that you have a system for managing your parts when you do take them off, because if you just scatter them haphazardly about, it's going to be very difficult to put your reel back together when you're searching for pieces and parts that, well, may be somewhere else. All right, we're just going to clean this up again. It's a nice clean reel. Well, this is going to tell us, we're going to take the 5 screws off here. It's going to tell us what's wrong with the reel. I think that, for one, that eccentric being off, maybe jamming the gears. Could also be an issue with the line guide assembly. There could be something going wrong in there. If you have a broken pawl, for example, it will trap in the teeth of the worm gear. If it traps in there, then you won't go forward or backward with the reel. It'll be an effective wedge stopping the worm gear from moving. When I take the screws off, I'm checking to make sure that all of the screws are the same size. If you're working on some reels, some of the older generation reels that have the seat that's not riveted on like this one, this is a graphite case, that's the G. But if they're not riveted on, some of those have the reel seats that are metal, and the metal have smaller screws coming in from the side plate. So you just need to check to make sure that they're all the same. And if you're stuck and if you haven't been taking pictures, one of the ways to catch up in terms of what's going on, what the pieces and the orientations are of the parts and the like, is to go to a schematic diagram for the reel. Those schematic diagrams are available online. One of the great sources for that is mysticparts.com. They are a Penn parts distributor, and they do have the schematics for the Penn reels. All right, we're just going to try and pull this off now, see what's going on here. This should come off. There we go. And let's start with this side. We're going to try and eliminate causes while we're at it. We have our idler gear. The idler gear's got all its teeth, and you'll see when I turn it by hand that the line guide is traveling the way it should. So we're going to say that's not the cause for this reel not working. While we have it off, we just want to take a moment. There's very clean inside here, like the outside. There's a little bit of dirt in there. We'll clean that up. Put a couple of drops of oil onto the worm gear drive and onto the bearing in the back of the case. And now we can pull the, well, there's our, that's probably our issue right there. I think we have a bearing that's stuck on our spool, but let's see what damage has been done here and what else is going on. We have a broken spring somewhere. So let's take this off. This isn't doing anybody any good. Place that in there. We'll show you how to set that eccentric. But there's something going on in here too, and I'm not sure if it's just a stuck. It could be a stuck bearing in the case, but it can also be a stuck gear. So we're going to just pull this side plate off, and to do that, we're going to remove the 4 bridge screws. Now this has gone beyond the basic service, because you typically would want the side plate off and the spool removed in order to service the side plate. So this one is not how you would typically service the reel. This is a little bit more difficult. You got to know a little bit more about this reel than just jumping in. But I'm thinking that right now we've got a pinion gear that's frozen onto the gear shaft of the spool. So you have to remove the top eccentric lever here, because you're going to have to take the side plate off and then remove the internal components kind of in reverse order. Okay, let's see if that came off. Yeah, so we've got our spring. There should be 2 of those. And this is where the schematic would help you. Here's your anti-reverse Dahlgren spring. This is your eccentric and your eccentric and your jack. And it's a lot of rust going on. So this is kind of a fool me situation, right? Because we have the situation where we have an inside that looks fairly rusted. There's our spring. And we have an outside that looks very nice and shiny, right? Well, that's interesting, because the spring is not broken. That's the way the spring should be. Well, we'll reinstall that. Let's see if we can get this off now. Yeah, so I think that's probably the issue here. This is frozen on. So what we want to do is good old heat treatment here. Or remove the main gear. We are going to soak this with a penetrating oil. I'm going to let that do its work. We're going to come back. So I'm going to shut the camera off now. We'll come back. And then we'll show you what you have to do with the heat. Again, this is not a typical service. If you're servicing the reel, all of this would have come off on this side plate, and you would have worked backwards. But, okay, we're going to let that just rest for a moment here, and then we'll be able to work on this. It's not the bearing. The bearing is, you can see we have movement in the case here, so it's not the bearing that's frozen. It's this. All right, we'll shut it off. We'll be back. We'll let that penetrating oil do a little bit of work, and then we'll come back and address this issue. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes. We've let that do its thing. We're going to use heat now. Why are we using heat? Because heat is going to expand. We have 2 different types of metals here. We have the steel pinion gear and the post. They will expand at different rates. That should break the seal of the rust that's in there, along with that penetrating oil. And we're going to use a plumber's torch to do that. Please be very careful if this is something you choose to do. You don't need much heat on this. I just generally watch for the bubbling of the penetrating oil. Yep, there it is, it's bubbling. And that's about it. I mean, if you want to get a little bit more crazy, leave it on another 10 seconds. But that should do it. Now, you're not going to grab that with the pliers right now, or anything else for that matter. This is hot. So be careful. Wear gloves. Protect yourself. Realize it's hot. Don't burn yourself. Don't do anything stupid. We're going to mat this. I'm going to use steel wool to mat this like that, because if I compress that, the steel wool should not injure the teeth as I kind of grip that piece with the channel lock pliers. You can see what I'm doing on this side here. And now I'm going to take the spool. I'm going to hold this steady. I don't want to wrench this side. Also note that these have slots in them, so you can't turn the gear. You have to pull the gear out. And to pull the gear out, what you're going to do is just pull that spool, rotating the spool, trying to pull the spool out, not the gear. So I'm going to, there you go. We got some movement. That's always encouraging. Now we're going to try and pull out. Oh, it's coming. There we go. It's off. Well, it's almost off. We can see the evidence, all of the dirt and debris and rust on there that was causing this to jam, and that's probably what happened here. So when this jams, you're not going to be able to free spool because you can't pull that in and out. Let's get that off. We're going to let that cool. You can't pull that in and off of the shaft. As I showed you on the other one, this little slot here is locking the spool in. This is the wrong gear. It's locking that spool in. To get free spool, you need to move that out. If it's rusted, it won't move out. You won't get free spool. That means your reel will always spin and it won't go to casting mode. All right, well, I'm going to take the steel wool I just had. It's a 4.0 steel wool. I'm going to try and polish up this shaft that was rusted. That other part is still hot. I'm going to try and leave that alone for a moment. Well, that should fix that. Let's see if we can bring this up. It probably is cooled off now. Yeah, it's cooled off. I'm just going to use some penetrating oil on the inside of this because there's obviously going to be some rust in there as well. Okay, let's set this aside for a moment. We'll come back, but the mystery of why the reel failed has been solved. Now it's kind of showing you how to put it back together again, because it wasn't the typical way that you would take the reel apart. It is the typical way you would put the reel back together again. And for those of you that have one of these reels that are trying to do just that, well, this will be a kind of a education in how to do that part of it, right? And you've also learned that if you have one of those issues stuck, well, that's a way to get that done. One of the things we can do at the moment while we're waiting here for the cool down process, we can go put that eccentric back on. So the good news is that somebody probably knew that there was an issue here, started to take it apart, popped the spring, but the spring wasn't broken. All good. That spring belongs in here. It's going to sit like that. And the hook side of the spring is going to go in here, in this little hole in the eccentric. As the eccentric wasn't damaged, that's all good. So it goes like this. Seats in that little wedge corner there, and then you push it in. Well, right now, that's why they couldn't get this into a position where the arm went on correctly, because it's, you'll see, if I can find the arm, that to put the arm on correctly, you're over here somewhere, and that's just not going to work. So you have two ways to do this. You want to spin this counterclockwise. Sometimes you can do it by hand. Sometimes you need a little assist. I'll show you the little assist side. I'm going to gently grab the little stud here, just kind of turn it until I get a balance point where it's not going forward or backwards. And you'll feel it. That's it right there. That's the balance point. It's halfway. What does that mean on halfway? It means on this side you can attach the lever. So we're going to take this trim ring. Here's your lever. Now your lever is over the case, which is where it belongs. We can take this screw with the little protective washer, get that started. And now we've fixed the other problem with this reel, which is the eccentric was off, but now we know why the eccentric was off. Because the reel was seized and somebody started the project but didn't finish the project. Okay, now you'll see that it's operating. When it's in a down, it's engaging the free spool. When it's up, it's allowing the spool to connect with your, that's dried off, connect with your pinion gear. All right, done that. Let's clean up some of this then. Next thing we want to do is pull our gear sleeve. I'm going to use a punch to push the pin out that's holding it. There we go. This is the pin that rides in the slot. Once you push that out, well, we didn't push it out enough. I try to leave it in if I can, but probably going to wind up pushing it all the way through. That's okay too. In this case, I don't have enough reach with that. Go back to that little pliers. I use this channel lock an awful lot. And I guess we're just going to pull it all the way out. That's the pin that's holding it in place. Now we can remove the sleeve because we have all of that rust and dirt and debris that needs to be cleaned out of there. So I don't lose the pin. I'm just going to kind of stick that back in here. I'm going to start by cleaning this center tube out. While I do that, I want to encourage you to ask questions. If you are working on a reel or want to know more about a reel, or maybe you're considering buying a reel or something like that, just leave those questions in the comment section. I do try to answer those for you. And, well, if I can help you along the way, maybe we can give another reel a second chance. All right. All good. All cleaned. That issue shouldn't be. I'm going to test this bearing. That bearing seems to be running okay, so the rust was on the other side of it. You do want to make sure that you oil these bearings. Keep them lubricated. All right. To reinstall that sleeve, just put a light coating of grease onto the shaft. Bring the sleeve over now that it's been cleaned. And I use this pliers an awful lot. You've been seeing that. I use that pliers to pull that pin in. One word of note, you need to make sure you clear the ridge here and that pin is below that recess, otherwise you won't get the main gear back on. Alright, it turns free and easy now. We do have a washer that's on there already. Let's take a look at the main gear stack. This has got a lot of gears, a lot of drag washers in it. It's a very heavy or high amount of max drag on this one because it's a 10 washer set. It's not your typical, there we go, it's a 10 washer set, not the 6 washer that's in most Penn reels of this piece. So when you look at this reel, yeah, it's meant for a big fish. A lot of max drag, big solid frame to it, and well, ready to go fishing. All right, we're going to clean off the teeth here and inspect those. Probably got more use out of this paper towel than it was designed for. I seem to have my people out there reminding me that paper towels are relatively inexpensive. All right, we're going to grab a bristle brush, pull through, take a look at those teeth as you're pulling through, making sure that they're not damaged. When you see a spring floating around in the bottom of a reel, you always want to check for damage because you're not sure what that may have hit as it went to its resting place there. Okay, we're in good condition there. We want to relube this. Use fishing reel grease. I'm using Penn Precision Reel Grease for this. We've learned a lot today already, right? We learned that for some reasons those pinion gears will get stuck to the spool shafts. Usually what happens is you've come back from a trip, maybe it was the last trip of the year, you found yourself in a rush, you hosed off the reel but maybe didn't do as good a job as you would have liked, or maybe you didn't hose the reel off at all, there was salt water inside the reel, that always gets in there because, well, it's not a sealed reel. It's it is subject to water intrusion. Still trying to work on this little pin here. Remember what I was saying about you can't get the main gear over if that pin isn't below that crease. There it is. And well, now you can get it over. All right, we alternate these. These can be greased or they can be applied dry. Most of the time they're in dry, so we're going to do that. They're carbon tex. They're not permeable, and grease doesn't really do too much because the purpose of grease is to keep washers from drying out. Inspect them. If you can still see the cross hatchings on them and they're nice and clear, then that's the way they belong. This alternates on a keyed washer, which is the one that has the rectangular set, and an eared washer, the one with the studs. So the first one in is a keyed washer because you have one more keyed washer than you do eared washer. And we're just alternating now. Second of your keyed washers. Next drag. Last of your eared washers. Last drag. Top washer. Okay, that's your bridge. Let's clean out our pinion gear. We've had that little rust going on inside there. I'm just going to use a cotton swab, push that through. All right, we should be good. Yep, we got the dirt out. We can go about reassembling the reel then. We're going to start the reassembly by taking our top end, which is our yoke, our pinion gear, and our jack, and the two springs, and putting those inside the case. We want to make sure that we put the grease onto the shoulder of the yoke. That's going to be spinning in the groove of that pinion gear. Oops. That was a whoops. I guess I'm going to use this one more time. We didn't brush out the teeth on that pinion gear. And given all this that's gone through, we certainly want to do that. The teeth look good. Just a little dirty. Now I'll get rid of that for those of you wondering when I'm getting rid of that old towel. And we'll continue. All right. Now we can put the new grease onto the teeth. Set that down for a moment. We want to get our two yoke springs. They're going to go in a cavity. I'm just noticing that there's something in here as well. The two springs go into the cavities here, one on the left, one on the right. Then we center the yoke with the slot of the pinion gear facing out. Press down. Take our jack. Bring the hook over the stud. Make sure that the back side of that hook has that U nesting on the other stud. All right, that's the free spool mechanism. Next up then, we can work to center and place the bridge assembly, which we just finished, inside. You want to do the same thing here. You want to center those springs. I'm just trying to get this spring in the hole here. Press down. Bring your gear assembly in. And then you'll find that there's two studs that this has to seat to. Okay, we're seated. What I want to do now is bring the anti-reverse dog in. The anti-reverse dog has a spring on the beak on the back side of that. It goes in this lower post position here. I want to find a fully threaded screw bring the screw up through the hole, and then we can finish snapping this in place. It's like maybe, just maybe, I'm not quite in with that. Okay, come back and start the tightening sequence for this screw, but do not tighten it all the way. Just make sure you grab it. Come over to the other side, bring the other screws into play. There's two screws that are partially threaded. They belong up top. They're going through those springs that we set up. And I alternate these. I go in an X pattern. So I'll come back and do this. That's going to keep the bridge going on nice and square and flush. Should not have any tension when you're doing this. Let's get this one done. Come back to the other. This may be that the spring is not quite set right. There we go. Once you got that last one started, you can go back and tighten the rest of them. And we need to hook the anti-reverse spring on the back here. This anti-reverse spring has a little loop in it. It's going to hook against this back post over here. So I like to grab it with the little point. Sometimes I'll use a safety pin or other things. With that on, I like to push it down. And before I go any further now, give it a test. So everything's running the way it should. This is the piece that I wasn't able to put the grease on. Just want a little bit on the shoulder of that jack. Now we can go ahead and put the back side of this on. First thing is our spacer sleeve, tension washer, star adjuster. And this one should be able to go fishing again. So what have we done? Well, we've done kind of surgery here, right? Done a lot of different things. Showed you how to free up the stuck pinion gear. Showed you that was the cause of the failure. And, well, showed you how to rebuild the reel while we were at it. Put that back on. Let's go install this in the case now. You want to put some grease onto both sides of the spool shaft. We did clean this one up with our steel wool. A little bit of grease will prevent it from freezing again. Let's mount that into the case. Let's bring our case gear side in. Make sure it's a nice tight seam all the way around. Since all 5 screws are the same, they can go in any particular order. So we'll do that. While I'm doing that, I want to take a moment to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I do appreciate your efforts and never get tired of saying thanks. You guys are great. All right. I go opposite just like we did on those bridge screws. Again, it keeps the tension equal on the case as you go to tighten it up. Need to move your lever to get to the case screw behind it. Now the lever works properly. We showed you how to set that eccentric. I guess this glove can come off. It's probably transferring more grease to the reel than saving anything at the moment. 2 more screws, one above, one below. We'll put the handle on, we'll give it a final test. Those gloves are protective, but on warm summer days, your hands sweat an awful lot. But those are the trade-offs you make. Now, if we didn't put grease onto that gear sleeve and shaft when we reinstalled that, you have the oil port that comes through the handle. So if you remove the handle screw, you'll get this, and you could put a drop of oil in there to keep that lubricated. All right, handle goes back on. This has, we cleaned and used the penetrating oil below. This has an oil port here. You can put some oil in there as well. Hand start these screws. Take them down as far as you can, turning it by hand. That way you won't risk cross-stripping. Cross-stripping is a problem. Let's bring this in. You want to align the scallop in your handle screw with the hole for the set screw. And this is the last will be first, and the first will be last. This is the first piece we took off, which was the set screw for your handle. It's the last piece on. The parts tray is empty. I'm going to give this one a try now. See how we did. Okay, this has been reinstalled. The eccentric works. We're in free spool mode. When you're casting, it's turning this way, and it's turning beautifully. Let's go to engage mode, make sure that our drives are tightened. How do you like that? We're running again. There's a lot to do to get that to work, but it's done. That's how to diagnose a problem. A little bit of a unique approach with how to get that stuck pinion gear off the spool, how to reinstall everything, how to keep this reel fishing for a long time to come. I hope you've enjoyed that. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I want to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank our loyal channel viewers who continue to support the channel. And I want to wish everybody a great day on the water and fun fishing. Have a great day.